Honda Pilot Overland here, Evan and Aaron, and today we want to talk to you about our skid plate. We built ourselves a custom DIY skid plate for our Honda Pilot, and today I'd like to give you kind of the rundown on how I built it and kind of let you know how it's been doing. So I guess to cut to the chase here, it's been doing really well. It's got good coverage. I was able to build a nice little ramp on the front. The outside here, these pieces, they're not very heavy duty. They're really just designed to keep out a little bit of mud. But the middle here, or the main ramp, it's made out of, I don't know if that's like 1/4 inch steel, but it came from an F250 transmission skid plate. And basically, I went to the junkyard just looking for a skid plate that could span the width of the subframe here. I'm gonna take the plate off in a moment so you can kind of see, but my goal was to weld some nuts up into my subframe and then just use some bolts and lock washers going up into the subframe to get it to stay. And so far, it's been doing a really good job. Every time I bump something down there, it gives me a lot of peace of mind that my oil pan is safe. What I do is just kind of support the skid plate in the middle here. And I don't know that I could jack the car up with it. But it's definitely lifting the car up to some extent without much flex in the middle. You know, if you were gonna build a 100% professional skid plate, you'd want it to be able to take the weight of the whole vehicle. So I'm probably not going to test that with mine. It spans a pretty good distance. It does have, because it's a pre-made skid plate from Ford F250, it does have some nice, bends in it that help it, be stronger. But let me take this plate off real quick. We'll kind of show you how I got it installed, how I got it hooked up into the Pilot, and then I'll show you some of the welds and stuff that I've done. So I was able to get the bolts to be 19mm bolts. That's a good size for this vehicle. It just so happens that a lot of the bolts, for, I believe the lug nuts are 19mm. So a lot of the bolts on this vehicle are 19mm. So far I haven't had any issue taking the skid plate down. What I do is loosen one side and then come over here and loosen the other. Today we're going to have a lot of mud caked on top of this sucker. There's one. And there actually is an extension to the skid plate that I built off the back. It's not quite as heavy duty as this main part, but there is one more little bolt. I think I designed that one to try to mitigate how much if I was reversing, how much dirt kind of got scooped up. So I'm going to come around on this side and get that. I always forget what size bolt this one is. I brought a little assortment here. Looks like 12mm it is. If I'm lucky, I should be able to just hold the other one on the inside. It should come right off. Yeah. Alright. So you'll notice a little bit of oily residue here. That's my power steering fluid. It's been leaking a long time. I've actually got a replacement rack and pinion in the garage. I've just been kind of delaying the repair. But let me get this. Look at all this mud. Get this little bolt out of there. Alright, so let's see if I can push this under just a little bit. Well, here it comes. And I was able to build a cutout for the oil so I don't have to, you know, take it down every time I change the oil. Oh, look at all that mud. Woo! All right, well, let me rinse this off. I'll be right back, guys. All right, so here's the skid plate, washed up a bit. As you can see, I just used rattle can truck bed liner, but as you can see, I mean, even on our last trip, it clearly got some good rub marks on it. So the heaviest part is the F250 skid, which is this metal right here, and these couple plates right here. The lighter duty parts are this metal right here, which I do believe came off that same skid plate. And then we have these two lighter duty pieces. I forget exactly where that scrap metal came from, but like I said, this is the main part of the ramp that kind of takes most of the impact. These two pieces were just designed to keep out some of the mud. When I first built the skid, I was actually less worried about the ramp and more worried about just having something over my oil pan down here. So what you're looking for is a piece of metal that can span from one side of the subframe all the way to the other. The beefier the better as far as you know, strength. There's not a lot of room for flex on the skid plate. This is the oil pan and this is the transmission right here. So from the front you can see they're both pretty exposed to hitting, you know, hard objects. So the first goal I had was to get a piece of metal from here to here. Then I drilled holes through the skid plate and jacked the skid plate up against the subframe, and I marked where those bolts need to be. And then I drilled holes in the subframe large enough to fit the nuts that I needed for my bolts with the 19mm heads. And then I just tack welded them up into the subframe. My welds aren't the best, as you can see. I don't claim to be the best welder in the world, but so far it's doing the job and it's holding up that skid plate just fine. We've got two more nuts right here, and then once I got the main part of the plate up, then I was able to take my measurements of where I wanted to cut the ends off, and then I was able to kind of envision a way to build a ramp up to the front part of the subframe here. And then in the same way, I was able to build a little bridge back to this back subframe cross member. What you're looking for at the junkyard is you need a good heavy piece of steel, or if you were buying a piece of steel, it needs to be, it looks like about 36 inches wide. My holes are approximately 33 inches apart at the widest. If you can find a skid plate that has these bends in it, these bends actually give the skid plate more strength, especially on the top and bottom where these raised pieces are. Flip this over real quick so you can see this side. Yep. So I've been really happy with this. I've heard the skid plate, you know, bump the bottom quite a few times. When you lift your pilot, no matter what you do, this portion right here is going to be the lowest. I've got a 2.5 inch lift on my pilot, and let's see. See how much clearance we have right here. We have approximately 10 inches of clearance between the skid plate and the ground at its lowest right here in the front. So that's definitely going to be one of the touch points. If you guys want to join us over, if you Google Honda Pilot Overland, you'll see my build thread. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. You know, if you're looking to off-road your Pilot, this really should be one of the first modifications you make to the vehicle. If you're out off-roading and you bump that oil pan and crack it, it's just aluminum, it's not steel, so it won't really bend, it'll just crack. That would be a bad day. Once you get the skid plate put up, that's when I would start looking at doing, you know, different modifications to the lift and tires. Otherwise, you're just kind of risking it. All right, I got my Pilot lifted up on the jack about as high as it will go, and hopefully from this angle you can see the coverage we've gotten with the skid plate. And man, every time I see it, I'm just really happy with it. I think that if you guys put your mind to it, you guys could create some skid plates similar to this for pretty cheap. LKQ is the local salvage yard that I use, and I don't think they charge me even $40 for the skid plate. So the raw materials for me were about $40. But yep, I think that it's a good investment, and probably like I said, the first off-road modification you should really make to a Pilot is protecting that oil pan and that transmission. Hopefully my tips are helpful and that you guys can create some skid plates for your Pilots. I'd love to see, you know, more of them out there. I think that you know, they're kind of older vehicles. They don't cost a lot, so it's fun to mod them out and turn them into some fun off-road adventure toys. If you have any questions or you get stuck along the way, go ahead and don't be shy. Go ahead and ask me some questions. Join us over on my build page. If you just Google Honda Pilot Overland, you'll find that build forum. Join us there, and we discuss all kinds of things about modifying our Pilots. So again, if you guys have any comments, questions, put them below the video. If you like this content and you appreciate the information for modifying Pilots, go ahead and like and subscribe. And again, like I said in other vehicles, I've got a lot of plans for this channel, and the more support I get, the more I'm able to do. So just keep that in mind and have a wonderful day.